G'day everybody. It's been a while since I've done an update to my solar power system series. That's because I got to 12 and the next one was 13, and I'm superstitious and I didn't want anything bad to happen. But something bad is happening, so it's quite fit for this number 13. Anyway, what's happening here is the system is charging, it's bringing the bank up, it's doing everything it's supposed to do, but the problem is I don't know, I guess it's best displayed with graphs, and we can see here what the problem is. So the system, this is midnight over here on the left, and this is 6:45 p.m. over here, and what's happening is the state of charge. It says temperature there, so it says 91.5 degrees centigrade. Now the graphing software doesn't have all the axes I want, so what I'm using is I'm using temperature to measure the state of charge of the system. So it's at 91.5, and you can see it drops off really quick from here, get this out of the way, hop out of the way, to here, and then we're using less than 2 kilowatts being drawn off the batteries, and it drops really quick. So about this time it's morning, and then everybody goes off to school and work, and the power starts to come in. So this amount here is what the house is using, so subtract that from there, and you can see the amount of power available coming in to charge these batteries. And yet you can see this state of charge graph, which is here, rises a lot more slowly than it falls. And what happens if we jump back a few days, ignore yesterday, I'll explain that later, and we see this behavior on the state of charge. So we're at 95, and the purple line is the voltage. So the voltage has come up from its low point of 50 volt, state of charge down 93, up it comes, up it comes. Voltage is up and down with the solar, as you'd expect. At this point I kick in grid charge because it wasn't going to make it, and then bang, all of a sudden state of charge is at 100%. Then it runs for a while until 6:30 is configured, and then it runs off the batteries again. I like to bring them off the charge every day. At this point the state of charge drops off rapidly, and even throwing grid power at it, I was still worried about it on this day. It comes up a lot slowly, so let me get that off the screen. You can see it falls really fast, much higher than the usage. It may not be too apparent on just a few graphs. So that's an incomplete day in the data, and that one's hidden behind that red line there. Let's go back another day, and there you can see it every single day, this jump from here, bang, straight up. At that point the electronic charge controller has decided this thing's fully charged, won't throw any more power at it. So I became very concerned that it really wasn't charging properly. If it says it's drawn off down to a state of charge down here and then it just jumps up, it seemed to me that the batteries weren't properly getting charged. So what was happening is the voltage rising very quickly up through the settings, and so the bank, that these are forklift batteries, I think that's quite problematic in a solar setup. They expect to be charged at 100 amps and per battery, and there's 3 of them, so my charger can do 120, so it's quite a bit down. There was a bit that I could do to try to get to the bottom of this. I went into my configuration settings and to the charger, and I modified these settings here to try to get it to bring in as much amps as possible before it decided it was at high enough volts that it would just go straight to float and just say state of charge is 100%. Once it gets to float, as far as it's concerned, it's at 100%. Now it's a big bank. That's a lot. The bank size is 3,300 amp hours at 48 volts, which is just over 150 kilowatt hours. And even at 0.1, that's a pretty big transition. So as far as it's concerned, it just hits float. Strangely, it didn't used to do this, but it does now. So I've got this as fine as I can. I'm bringing it almost up to like equalizations at 58.8 and absorptions at 57. I've just recently updated the minimum times on the changeover time to try to get a lot of amps in. So far that really hasn't helped. If we have a look at where we're at now, it's not taking in a lot of power. I've told it that it has to do this for, how long did I say? For this transition period here, 2 hours. I'm forcing it to take the charge for 2 hours from the absorption to the float transition. And it only wants to take half a kilowatt. You know, it has as much available as required. It's charging from the grid. I'm using the grid as backup here. But it doesn't want to take the power. The voltages are coming up. And what's happening is the voltages rise really, really fast on this battery bank. So the only other thing I had left to do was the individual cell tests on their voltage. They're reading at 2.24, 2.25 when it says it's charged, which is pretty high and cool. But then the state of charge is dropping off really fast, which is the amount of amps measured through a shunt being drawn off. So I didn't take a picture of it, but I have a little graph from the battery manufacturer, and it says that the specific gravity of the battery acid, these are wet batteries, so I can measure the specific gravity. If the bank is 50% discharged, it should be around 1,225. So I brought it up to float, let it sit there for a few hours, measured the specific gravity, and it was in fact 1,225. So 50% charged, although the voltage is up there, which makes it really difficult. So what I did, I was quite concerned about that, and what I did was starting the day before yesterday, so this is today, let me go back a day, and I'll just go back one more day, and you'll see here, I kicked in, the state of charge goes to 100%, voltage goes to 59 at this point. This point I kicked in an 8-hour equalization, so that was at 11:20 p.m. The idea of equalization is to basically make sure that all the batteries are in a pretty consistent state, and it just holds them at a very high voltage for quite a while. So that went on for 8 hours, and then we went into the next day, and I went and measured the specific gravity. At this point, the specific gravity was at 1,250, which is about 30% discharged, although the equipment's reading the bank is fully charged. So another cycle, I hit it with another 8-hour equalize. Didn't want to do it, but I can't have my bank sitting there not charged. Specific gravity is a true measure of how charged it is. And I ran that until 6 p.m. This is yesterday, and then at that point, when the equalize finished, I went and measured the specific gravity, and it was 1,275, which puts it at about 10% discharged, even though it's fully charged. So what I also noticed is that this state of charge is dropping off really, really, really fast as soon as the batteries went back under load. The manufacturer of the cell electronics got back to me and had a suggestion that what I needed to change was in here. I've mentioned this setting before. I think you say Puchertz exponent. Now this was configured at 1.25. What that means is that it basically will say that there's a 25% overhead in discharge and recharge. Now, interestingly enough, if we have a look over here and we go to our technical data, we can see that my cable loss is zero. It's being measured by the cabling. Very small sensors that are on both sides of the equation to work out what cable loss is happening, and it's 0 watts. It's got nice thick cables, so I'm not losing a quarter of my power. So I've changed this Puchertz exponent to 1, which means it will have no effect, and we'll see how that goes. However, I really don't know where the bank is at. The specific gravity is not correct. The voltage has just come screaming up very, very quickly. So I had to talk to my good friend just in case about this. I've decided to really do think it was good advice is I'm going to disconnect the batteries for 3 days and let them all settle down, and hopefully the specific gravity and the voltages will become friends again and decide that they all want to play in the same playground. So I will update you on this. Alright, here we go. Very dark in here. Whoa. There we go. Okay. There's the bank, quietly humming away. Pick a cell at random. Grab the SG meter. Shove him down in there. Yeah, just below 1275. It says it's fully charged, so there's been a big improvement with the double equalize, but it's still not right. It should be up at 1295 for these batteries. I'll just grab another cell and another battery. Here, let's go through the primary one. This is where the positive comes off for the entire system. I am wearing safety goggles. I'll show you them in a bit. There we go. Once again, that's at about that was not looking too good, 1260. Definitely not fully charged. And let's just grab a random one over near the battery sensor, which is there. Have a look at that. Wow, the electrolyte's been expanding with all this charging of them. And that's not doing too well either. That's it's about 1260. So I'm definitely not happy with those levels. Alright, now let's disconnect these suckers. Give the batteries a chance to settle down. Head on in here. First thing we're going to do is turn this off. Cool. Next, this switch here, apparently off. That ain't too bad. And here we go. The old shit switch. You pull this and the batteries are disconnected. Done. Okay, so Electronics wants to reboot. While I was doing that, these are my glasses I use for maintaining the batteries. They've got little LEDs in them. Got them for 20 bucks from Bunnings. And they really protect your eyes, because sometimes you might be holding a torch trying to look down at the battery levels or whatever and forget to put them on. And with these, you can see in the dark, they're fantastic. I'm using a little solar light in here, But if we turn that off, you can see just fine with these. They make plenty of light. Just waiting for this guy to decide he wants to come back on. Alright, there we go. It's back on. Complaining about the batteries. I'll give them a few days to settle down and find out what they're doing. Alright, so here we go. No batteries. They're disconnected. I'll let this bank settle down for about 3 days and do another specific gravity reading and check the voltages. Hopefully it'll all just calm down and the bank will come into harmony, and then we'll charge it back up and see how we go.